Hello, it's West of Everest. He's Grant. I'm Lee. OU's 9-2 and 1 win away from the playoff. You all know that. What do you want from me? Coming up, hot sports podcasting, including but not limited to the latest college football playoff rankings, the latest on Oklahoma's ridiculous running back room situation. The regular season finale against LSU is upcoming. Excuse me, got a little something in my throat here. No, we got thoughts on that as well. And thankful I could get that out of my throat. And also, it's Thanksgiving week, so we'll tell you what we are thankful for in addition to me clearing my throat as this podcast gets off to an excellent start. All right, so we're recording a day earlier than normal. That's due to the Thanksgiving holiday schedule. So, Grant, you've got a road trip upcoming. Is that correct?
That is correct. We'll be on the road starting very early tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning is Wednesday morning. And of course, just in time for the first snowstorm of the year here in the Twin Cities. Doesn't look like the weather is going to be, well, it's going to be better, but it doesn't look like the weather's going to be that much better in Norman this upcoming Saturday, which you and I will presumably both be there. I don't know. You don't like to commit to anything, so I think we're both planning on being there, but you're just like, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe the wind will take me somewhere. Who knows?
I just, you can't, you got to just be thankful for each and every second, each and every day, man. You can't look ahead. So that's the plan. We'll see what happens. And also the weather, right now it doesn't look all that great, but I'm hopeful that as the days get closer to Saturday, the Norman forecast will clear up, and maybe the worst we'll have is just maybe some like uncomfortable, annoying windiness, but that's about it.
Well, that's what I'm scared of, because wind just makes everything worse. Like a lot of the time, even if it's like 20 degrees outside and there's no wind, like that's fine. Like it's okay. But but you add a little bit of wind, 5, 10, 15 mile an hour wind, that's when it starts to get really, really cold. And I don't like that. I know I live in Minnesota, but I don't like being cold. That's why, it's like one of my favorite parts about visiting Oklahoma is that it's not always cold, although the cold in Oklahoma is a lot colder than the cold in Minnesota. So that's a conversation for another time and another place. Oh, you've got a win. Oh gosh.
Oh, I thought that you were done.
Nah, yeah,
I got a win this
done.
weekend.
Well, I was gonna say, well, I mean, yeah, but they're in a win and in game on Saturday. They win. They're in the college football playoff. That's pretty sweet, and it's against LSU. I hate LSU.
You do. That's been
really
a constant
hate
theme
LSU.
on this show.
It's just it's not a program that is respectable. They're just, well, I mean, their fans and I'm not talking about every fan. I'm not random LSU guy watching or listening to this. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your fan base, which has a really, really bad reputation for being just a bunch of knuckleheads. Dickish knuckleheads, actually. So I'm kind of curious to see if even LSU Road Warriors will bring that knuckleheadedness to Norman. I'm not exactly sure. But there's that. And it's also, they're just the most fortunate football program in the history of organized sports. So do with that what you will.
Well, and all we know since we've been alive is OU losing to LSU. We've never seen the Sooners beat the Tigers. And according to my quick internet searching, everyone knows this presumably, but not me, because things like this typically don't really matter to me. But first time that LSU's ever been to Norman, huh? Wow, that's actually kind of interesting.
First time that LSU or Oklahoma has ever played LSU not in extremely hostile territory. Something tells me they're not going to be quite as tough when they're not playing in the state of Louisiana or in Atlanta, which may as well just be New Orleans.
All right, we'll talk about that coming up. But before we get into that, let's hit on some of the newsy topics of the day. And we'll start with the college football playoff rankings. And you mentioned that Oklahoma's at a win and in. They didn't move at all, did they? They were 8.
They didn't.
Were they 8 last week? Yeah.
The only difference in the top 12 is that Ole Miss and Oregon swapped spots. So Oregon is now number 6. Ole Miss is now number 7. And I think that sets up kind of an interesting It sets up an interesting Egg Bowl on Friday for sure. If Ole Miss were to lose that game, which is, you look at the point spread, is not out of the realm of possibility. That point spread, I guess, as of yesterday when I was putting everything together, was within a touchdown. So we'll go ahead and check that before we go through our picks of the week segment. But it also sets up an interesting, because on Saturday, Oregon also playing at Washington in Seattle. So I think those are two interesting games. But I think it begs the question. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, let's say Oklahoma takes care of business against LSU on Saturday. Let's say Ole Miss loses to Mississippi State. Does Ole Miss stay right there in place ahead of Oklahoma, or do they have the stones to move Ole Miss back or even omit them from the field entirely? I think that is going to be one of the big questions going into, and of course, I guess there's a whole other Saturday there's a championship Saturday before any of that is settled, but could be interesting. How about this, Lee? How do you feel about? I saw somebody bring up this hypothetical because the Mississippi State AD came out last week and said, hey, we'll talk about this after the Egg Bowl next week. And I took that as, oh, well, Lane Kiffin is obviously gone then, because if he was staying at
the Ole Miss AD, not Mississippi State, right?
Oh, yep. I'm sorry. I meant to say
that's what, Zach Selman?
Zach Selman is, yeah.
State?
But yes, no, thank you. I meant to say the Ole Miss AD. And so I took that as like, okay, Lane Kiffin is very obviously gone. If he was staying at Ole Miss, they would have announced some sort of like extension or whatever, or at least that's kind of that's the vibe that gives off. So that game is at 11 a.m. on Friday. A full 27 and a half hours before Oklahoma is set to face LSU. LSU, you may have read this in the news, Lee, that LSU is one of the schools that Lane Kiffin is deciding. It's either LSU or Florida, it appears, or Ole Miss, I guess, if he wants to stay. What happens? What if we find out that Lane Kiffin is the head coach at LSU the morning of the OU LSU game? Do you think that would change like the vibe at all of the game?
Oh, I don't know if that's a hypothetical. I don't think we would find that out though.
I think it's just for the sake of argument. And also I've even thought too, how sick and sweet would it be if, on the flip side, we find out that on early Saturday morning that Lane Kiffin is the new head coach at the University of Florida and OU beats LSU by 6 touchdowns. That would be I think that would be the best scenario for everybody. I really want LSU to go through about 10, 11, 20, 30 years of being similar to what Oklahoma State is this year.
Yeah. So back to the original question, if we find out Saturday morning that Lane Kiffin's the next coach, would that impact anything for the game? Probably not.
Right? No, I mean,
no. They've all. What's the old saying? The hay's in the barn at that point. All the prep. Nobody's thinking that the interim head coach for LSU is going to be the full-time head coach. So probably wouldn't impact much at all.
It could make for an interesting. Like, what if we find out? That's if we are on campus. Who knows, right? Based on your thinking, but let's say if we're heading down there in the morning and we find out, it's been announced, Lane Kiffin at LSU. Like, what if that could make the conversation on the ground kind of interesting before the game? Will it affect the game? Like, even if it did, such things are not even remotely measurable. So I don't. Who knows? But narratively speaking, it certainly could. So I just an interesting thing. Although, the whole Lane Kiffin saga, while at times amusing, it is kind of starting to be like all of this has the air of wherever he goes, he's going to be a massive bust. Just because there's far too much crap going into this.
So I guess this is not popular because we're doing a podcast about college football, precisely about Oklahoma football, which we talk about a lot. But we do talk about, obviously, the world of college football outside of OU. So, I'm supposed to have thoughts and stuff. I'll be honest, the whole Lane Kiffin, I haven't really thought much about it at all. I don't really care where he goes, if he stays or not. And I'm supposed to have thoughts. I don't. I don't care. I don't really care what he does. So that's my take. Who cares?
It's great
I really care.
podcasting. Great
I know.
I'm sitting here.
It's just I don't think it's very interesting. Like I think Lane Kiffin's a good coach, but I don't think he's like an awesome, amazing coach. So it's like if he wants to leave, great. If he wants to stay, cool. Whatever happens, happens, man. Just like Saturday, man. Whether we're there or not, whatever happens, happens, man.
Let's go. Keep vamping. You're cooking right now. Let's go.
I feel pretty good about this.
I know you
This is
got
a good one.
You started to get kind of interesting there for a second, but alas,
I'll take it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm glad you'll take something. So anyway, winning in, essentially what I mean. OU's been playing playoff football since the beginning of November, so this is very well-worn territory for them up to this point. And I suppose we will get to that game at some point. Actually, you're kind of not really saying you're driving the bus, but you were the one who came with this idea of going over these things that we're thankful for. Where's that landed in the show? We doing that before or after our thoughts on LSU? Or
I was
or what's the
imagining
deal?
that's going to be basically in lieu of any sort of LSU discussion. Because I'll be honest with you, I didn't even see any of the most recent game or last two games. So my LSU prep is about as limited as it can be.
Did you not watch? You didn't watch their game against Alabama?
Oh, I watched that, but I mean, the quarterback's not. It's different quarterback. So, well, actually, no. Let me be more
Van
precise. I
Van
watched
Buren
the first
played
half. I didn't watch
the second half. Okay.
So I didn't get to the second half. I didn't make it that far. And I was mainly interested just in LSU's defense. And here's my thoughts on LSU's defense based off of a half of football. It kind of looks the same as like all the other good defenses they've played this year. Like, I think if Oklahoma can do things well on offense, they can probably get them for some plays, but they're going to probably struggle. But they're also probably not as good as Missouri's defense. They're probably not as good as Alabama's defense, but it's like pretty close. And they're definitely better than like Tennessee and South Carolina. That's my assessment of LSU's defense.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think
But I mean, we can save the LSU talk until I guess I just jumped right ahead to the LSU talk because Venables did say something today about the running back situation, which everybody's wondering about, which can be particularly interesting.
Wonderful transition.
Well, I mean, we're my bad.
Let's actually get to that because it does matter. One of the things coming out of the and it's the one thing from the Venables presser that I thought was that, and another thing about Javonte Barnes, which I don't have a clip for that, but I will just I'll tell you what happened. But so early on in his press conference this morning, George Stoy of Sooner Scoop, I believe he kicked off the questioning, and he asked Brent Venables about the running back situation because coming out of the Missouri game, I thought it was quite odd that Xavier Robinson played about 95% of the snaps in that game. He was the only running back who got a carry in the game. And by my eyes, he did not look anywhere close to 100% healthy. And so I think it was fair to question whether or not Oklahoma has any running backs that they're willing to even play outside of Xavier Robinson. At this point in time, Torrey Blaylock sounds like available. Who knows if he's hurt, but he is clearly not as trusted as much as Xavier Robinson is at this point in time. So George Stoy asked about the running backs, Lee. Here's what he said.
Do we have audio? If you're hearing audio, I'm not.
You're not hearing audio?
No.
Well, great. Okay, so that may not be working right now. So, all right, I'm going to have to edit around this then.
Or not.
Or
Whatever.
not. Can we just do it live? Maybe the audio was working. You just didn't hear it. Maybe. We're having an on-air production meeting right now. This is very good stuff.
It's possible. I mean, it probably is coming across on your end, so you can leave this all in. Maybe it was playing, and I just, I'll have to like read the quote. Maybe I'll just bring the quote up and read it.
All right. Well, I'll do my best to describe to you what he is saying. He did not he answered it in a very diplomatic way. He essentially said that Taylor Tatum and Jaden Ott are available, but
Saw that, yeah.
he said that in a manner of speaking as he just kind of tacked it on at the end as sort of something that was technically true, but is but the way that he answered the question, it did not seem like that it was imminent that either of those guys would get any sort of run whatsoever. So
Yeah, and I know he had a long statement about Javonte Barnes. Is there a way to DR it as essentially just, or no?
sure, yeah, no, he is so without explicitly saying it, he kind of did confirm that Javonte Barnes is redshirting to preserve his eligibility. He did not say those words exactly the way he answered the question. He was essentially conceding that that's what is going on. And most of his statement on it had to do with, the thing that stood out to me. He said, this is not something that's the player's fault. This is like a new era of doing things. And he's essentially, what he said was, if you got to look after yourself doing this or that, then he understands that. And as long as you show up every single day and you do the things that are asked of you, then he's okay with that as a head coach.
I have part of the quote here, and I'll credit the Oklahoman for this, but to kind of add on to it, this is the second part of the quote, but I think it'll essentially explain what you were just saying. Brent Venables quote, "At the end of the day," which, by the way, I hate when people say "at the end of the day." It's a really poor verbal crutch. So come on, Coach Venables, be better. Anyways, Venables said, quote, "At the end of the day, we have a now I'm the one messing up. We have a different environment that's not the player's fault. They have lots of different options now. I look at it with that lens as well. Can't blame guys for wanting a little more of this or that and looking out for their futures. I don't think it's necessarily a selfish trait, but we've created this environment that has some selfishness to it. Again, from an environment standpoint, my job is to make sure that those things are not a distraction and people are contributing, working, and showing up with a diligent mindset and work ethic. As long as those things are good." Did he really say capiche? Pretty capiche
yes.
about it all? As long as those things are good, pretty capiche about it all, Javonte is in good standing, end quote. So I think that part of the quote pretty much confirms what you were saying.
And I do want to, not sure if it came through in the Oklahoman quote, but it was Barry Trammell followed up after his statement. He asked, "So Javonte Barnes is in good standing?" And BV said, "Yes, he's in good standing." So, I actually I thought he answered that really well. And I do the way that he says, is it's his job as a head coach to make sure that those distractions like aren't seeping through and are not showing up, out on the field. I think that's an answer from Brent Venables that I think shows some really nice self-awareness from him, which I wouldn't necessarily say, especially in the press conference setting, has been something that you could say about Brent Venables throughout his entire tenure at Oklahoma. And so maybe I'm grasping at straws here, and I almost certainly am, but maybe that's him understanding that role and realizing that that's just kind of where we are in college football these days. And you're not going to be a successful head coach if you fight against that tide right now. It's just not possible. You have to embrace it, even if it goes against every fiber of your being to embrace such things. But if I'm, and maybe he's just being political with his answer there, but I think that's a really good way of doing it. And I think a guy like Javonte Barnes, who by all accounts has, you and I have not been his biggest fan as a player on the field, but by all accounts has been a good teammate and has been somebody who has shown up every single day and has done everything that's been asked of him. I do think in this new environment, it is really important to, hey, if you get to the end, like you're in your last year of eligibility and he's been passed up on the depth chart, like he certainly has at this point in time this season, I think it is the right thing to allow him to stay around, still doing all the things that are asked of him, but give him that opportunity to retain his eligibility so he can go off and play somewhere else where he's going to be more wanted, more needed is probably a better way of putting that. I think that's, as a coach, as a competitor, that's probably a difficult balance to strike. but I think it's essential in this new environment. And so we'll find out. And hey, if Oklahoma makes the playoff, none of those games count against his eligibility. So I'm
Is that
curious
confirmed?
if
Because they all
yes,
count as bowl games?
it's confirmed. Yes.
Interesting.
And so it is interesting. So I'm curious if now, who's to say if Javonte Barnes would like stick around for something like that? I'm assuming he would probably want to get into the portal right away so that he knows where he's playing next year. But I don't know. There's maybe a situation where they make the playoff and he's still around. Maybe he sticks around and he can help him out a little bit.
All right, so a lot of things going on here, and I agree with you on all of your thoughts, your assessment. So there's a few things. I think yes, Venables needs to, within the team setting, he obviously needs to navigate this and make sure it doesn't become a distraction within the team. And considering the running back room is so thin, and there's a guy that's presumably healthy now that is essentially not playing to preserve his red shirt, that could potentially be something that could be a bit of an issue with the team. And Venables has to make sure that he navigates that well. Now, it makes it easier. My second point, it's easier and probably is unlikely to be an issue with the team because everybody likes Javonte Barnes, and he's been a really good teammate, to your point. And you're right. I mean, on the field, there's been a lot left to be desired, but as a teammate, he's been an excellent teammate. Everybody likes him. He's a good kid. He knows what I mean. So I think everyone on the team probably is on his side and likes him and wants him to have a great future and everything like that. And then lastly, the third thing, another reason why I think this whole situation it's not that difficult, honestly, to navigate if you're Brent Venables, is because of his play on the field. Even though OU was thin at running back, if Javonte Barnes was a really good player, people would be mad. But then again, if he was a good player, he wouldn't be down in the depth chart. So he'd be playing. He'd been playing all year. So I think with him being just kind of a mediocre player, it's easy to be like, that's fine. You don't have to play, whatever. And then if they do make the playoff, if you're Javonte Barnes and they're still in the situation where they only really trust Xavier Robinson, and Oklahoma's willing to allow him to play and they're cool, and we know DeMarco Murray would love to have him play if he's healthy, why wouldn't you just be like, all right, I'm good now, let's play ball? Like, what's the worst that can happen? I guess you could get injured, I suppose. That would be the worst thing. And that would mess up your future. But then again, you could take a medical red shirt, then play the next year. I think the possibility of positivity for Javonte, if this is what actually is going on, and he will, and if they make the playoff, he can play freely while keeping eligibility. At that point, only good things can happen with the exception of an injury. Because why not? Maybe you can put some good things on tape. I mean, you're basically there with Xavier Robinson, who's banged up, and plus you get to play in playoff games. Or for Javonte Barnes, that'd be kind of. I think he'd be. If that was an actual option, I'd be really surprised if a college kid turned that down.
We'll see, but I think this. It's all made much more significant by their health situation at running back, and I don't think it's not a tenable situation that Xavier Robinson, who is not healthy, is the only guy that you can hand the ball off to against Missouri. Especially,
it's ridiculous, man. You got to give the ball to Taylor Tatum. You got to give it to Jaden Knott still. Unless, who cares? You can't just have one guy. Sorry,
that's fine.
It
I do
think for a second. Maybe not Jaden Knott, but Taylor Tatum needs to have carries.
I think but I do think there's a situation there where you're. So I mean, look at Jaden Knott. Jaden Knott is the example. Look at his body language. Look at everything. You give that guy playing time. Maybe Jaden Knott's not super popular in the locker room, and people are just like,
so
F
I take it back.
Guy.
Not him.
And
but, I mean, Taylor Tatum.
How do we know that Taylor Tatum is not in a similar boat?
We don't. But yeah, it's just the fact that Venables acknowledged that last game was the first time that Tatum's been fully healthy and available, and it confirmed that Jaden Knott's good to go too, and they're not playing.
And with Taylor Tatum, that would be what you're going to give him his first major run in a game in the season, which is a must-win game for you against a ranked team, against a good defense. And this is a guy, the last time that we saw any sort of significant chunk of him, still had crazy fumbling issues.
I get
I mean,
it,
I
but
can.
it wouldn't bother me. I wouldn't care. I mean, every game from here on out's must win. So, I mean, there's not going to be a better time than against LSU as a 10.5 point favorite at home with a good defense. So, I mean, they got to get them. I mean, clearly, either they're just not going to use them and they're just not going to have any running backs if Xavier Robinson gets hurt, which I guess Blaylock is still there. So, technically, he's there. It's just, unless they're totally comfortable with, like, you know what? If both guys go down and literally we have to go with Taylor Tatum or nobody, and they're comfortable with that, then more power to them, I suppose.
We'll see.
Do they
I
have
don't
any
know.
walk-ons that can play?
I mean, it would be Gabe Sawchuk would be the. So I mean, but I don't. He's a walk-on for a reason. I don't think you want to really give him any carries. It's would have been really great if 2023 Jade Knott could be on this team. But clearly it's a big old swing and a miss. But weird. All right, so we're gonna go back. We're gonna go over what we're thankful for now.
Well, go on over what you want to talk about LSU wise. So what I wanted to do is just kind of do classic sports talk radio topic, Thanksgiving week. Hey, what are you thankful for? And maybe if you want to be funny, you could say things that you're not thankful for. But I really don't have anything like that. I wanted to keep it positive.
Yeah, no, I'll go because I'm with you. I didn't watch their Western Kentucky game. I've watched quite a bit of LSU this year. They are a team that really, I mean, they're the best team that you can compare them to is 2024 Oklahoma. It's a really similar team. I think offenses in terms of like analytics and their inability to run the ball, their inability to push the ball down the field, their inability to protect the passer, it's almost like a 1-to-1 carbon copy. So it's so in and their offensive numbers in a pretty small sample size have been worse with Michael Van Buren. So he's struggling within the confines of that offense as well. And then there's also some interesting things going on with their personnel as well. So Aaron Anderson, who I think was their second leading receiver a season ago, was kind of I think a lot of people were thinking that he was going to be one of their main guys this season. And I mean, he had played in every single game all the way up until a couple of weeks ago, and hadn't really produced a whole lot this year. He had about 400 yards and a couple of touchdowns. And so he is, I believe Aaron Anderson has not played the last two games. And so there are people, and he hasn't been on the injury reports or anything. So there are people who are speculating whether or not this is an opt-out situation, and he's got eligibility. And so Aaron Anderson, who is one of their better offensive weapons, kind of sounds like that he may have opted out. But going over to the defensive side of the ball with them, and LSU's defense this season has been terrific. It's kind of odd in the sense that not a havoc driven defense at all, unless you want to look at their defensive secondary, which is the strength of their team. Kind of just going over here. Let's see here. They have last week with the Missouri, we went over and how like Missouri is like a pretty havoc driven defense. Like a lot of TFLs, a lot of sacks for Missouri. Same cannot be said for LSU. They have 56 tackles for loss this season. That is tied for 88th nationally, and 27 of those are sacks. And so this is not 27 sacks, that's tied for 32nd nationally. So this is not really a team that puts you behind the chains a lot, like by, with like a 2-yard loss on 1st and 10 on like an inside zone play. That's not really their strength. Their strength is definitely just their ability to play man coverage in the back end and the secondary. They do have 14 interceptions. I believe that's in the top 15 in college football. 7th, actually. It's 7th nationally. But where that gets interesting is LSU's maybe their best player on their entire team is their cornerback, Mansour Delane. He was a transfer from Virginia Tech from a season ago. He did not play against Western Kentucky, and he also was not on the injury report. And so there's some speculation that he has opted out. Now, I think he's out of eligibility, but I think a lot of people view him as a potential first-round pick. So he may have just already been like, our season's over. I'm done. I'm not playing it anymore. And so one of those things, maybe a good thing for Oklahoma, is that one, Aaron Anderson, who is one of their better receivers, appears to be a potential opt out, and Mansour Delane, who has been, I think, by a lot of people's tests, probably the best corner in the SEC this year, may also be in an opt out situation. And so Oklahoma may not see either of those guys. Other than that, LSU's offense is really bad. It's real bad. It's worse than South Carolina's. This is going to be the worst offense they faced in the SEC by like a pretty wide margin. And so it's on paper the type of offense that this Oklahoma defense should be licking their chops to go up against. They're not explosive. They can't run the ball. And so sounds kind of like the perfect recipe that Oklahoma had against, like, sort of in those first 5 games of the season, where they played a lot of offenses that couldn't run the ball and struggled to push the ball down the field. And OU just, as we saw, strangled the ever-living life out of them. And I think they're catching LSU at a time when Oklahoma's defense is, and we talked about it watching the Missouri game, is there was a lot of things that happened in that game that kind of lead us to believe that, wow, OU's defense is, like, they're getting better. Like, they're playing better. And you can see it on the field. And so being at home, having the crowd behind you with a very, very limited LSU offense, I think should breed a lot of confidence for Oklahoma in this game. The one thing that does kind of give me pause is, Michael Van Buren potentially being a mobile, like, running threat. If you go ahead and you look at his numbers, the stats don't bear him out being a massive running threat at all. In fact, he's been sacked quite a bit in his very brief amount of time playing this season. And so we'll see. This is a game that Oklahoma should win. This is LSU, they're 33rd in SP plus. This is South Carolina's 50th, so it's not going to be the worst SEC team they've played per SP plus, but it's the second worst one they've played. And I think you're at this point where Oklahoma's offense has not been good at all in SEC play, and I do think that they've been so mediocre that going up against a potential top 10-ish type defense for LSU, that that could get them beat. But also, man, LSU is going to struggle to score double-digit points in this game, unless OU gifts it to them.
Yeah. I mean, it should be similar to last week, but maybe even better. I mean, Oklahoma's defense should be able to strangle this team. I mean,
Missouri's offense is, like, significantly better than LSU's, and Missouri's offense significantly better than LSU's, even with Zollers playing for Missouri.
And I'd say this is going to be kind of like playing South Carolina with a less dynamic or potentially dynamic quarterback. I think Van Buren's probably a good player, but I mean, and we don't really like Lenore Sellers, but he's got a lot of talent. He just needs to find a way to harness it. But Oklahoma was able to, with the exception of like one series, was able to pretty much shut down South Carolina. And even on that series, Oklahoma got him off the field. So it's a game, where you hope that the offense doesn't make any mistakes and they stay on schedule. And my gosh, the total in this game, we were like laughing about the total last week. I'd like to know, in the history of college football, 36.5. I mean, what were some of those Iowa, Illinois games of the past, or Iowa minute? I mean, I guess some of those are probably like around like 31 or 32, honestly, from like a few years ago.
So they think it's, so with that, it's like, what, Vegas is like, this is a 24-13 game? Ish?
Yeah. Ish, yeah.
23-13.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, okay. But, man, that's a low total. 36.5 is so low. And, I mean, mixture, the two teams and then the weather is going to factor in, obviously, with that as well. So, and, we can do our thing about what we want to see, what's going to happen, all that stuff like that. Or, we can kind of mix in. Well, I'll start mixing in some things. So, I made some notes of, Thanksgiving time. What are you thankful for? And, I mean, you're going to be thankful for some of this stuff, too. And I'm going to start, but then we'll get back into the LSU preview because I got a couple of these that aren't even really OU related. But number one, and this guy, I didn't give this guy really any sort of props after the Missouri game. And if I did, it was very quick. So I'm going to give him props now and say, overall, first thing I'm thankful for right now, Grant, in the world of Oklahoma football, Kendall Daniels. I am thankful for Kendall Daniels because he has been really good this season. He was really good against Missouri. I finally finished the whole game. There's a couple of plays that really stood out. And I think he has done a really nice job fitting into this defense. 42 tackles. He has 9 TFLs. He's, last season he had 10 and a half. So he's up there. I mean, he has no sacks this season. Okay, that's okay.
He's not really rushing the passer at all. He's not. I'm not even really seeing blitzing all that often. So,
but I think he's actually been, when asked to cover, he's been pretty good. I think he can move okay. And there was a play against Missouri where I think it was more on the receiver, but Kendall Daniels may have also assisted in a PBU in the second half I think it was the fourth quarter upon rewatching. And so that guy, he can move really, really well. And so we've given him props throughout the season, but I don't remember talking about it much after the Missouri game. So I wanted to say I am thankful on this Thanksgiving week for Kendall Daniels being on the OU football team.
He's been terrific this year. And most of the defense has been this way, but it's nice to see someone having such a good season. And also he has just been completely healthy all year. Like, he's always out there. You're never worried about whether or not he's nicked up or banged up or anything like that. And so that's good to see. I think both of the of the more high profile, I guess they really only took 2 defensive transfers this year with Daniels and Marvin Jones Jr. And I think both of them have been glue guys in their own little way. I think Daniels more in the sense that Daniels has been like a genuinely really good player for them this year, whereas Marvin Jones Jr. has been more of just like a consistently solid guy that plays 40 snaps a game, which is, that's what you want to see. And so Kendall Daniels has just really been terrific this year. And I think it's a cliche to say this, but I think his decision to transfer, come to Oklahoma, and how it's actually turned out for him, he has made himself quite a bit of money this year. I would not be surprised at all to see him be like one of OU's kind of higher draft picks on the defensive side of the ball in this upcoming draft. And I guess now that you mentioned, I think if you put a gun to my head right now and ask me to predict, I think Grayson Halton is going to be like a second rounder. Grayson Halton is great. He's just a really good player, and so I think he's probably going to be their highest draft pick on the defensive side of the ball. I guess depending on the health of our Mason Thomas and whatnot, but OU actually they return a lot of guys on defense, so it's like if all of kind of the guys who can come back do come back, they'd have more draft eligible guys the next season. So, but no, I like that. Good. So are we going to do this now? Or are we fully in the what we're thankful for?
Yeah.
Because I do like this idea. I kind of feel like I'm not prepared for this at all, but I think that makes this way more interesting. So we're just going to go popcorn style. How about this? This is the first thing that popped in my head. This is OU centric, but it's not exactly about the players on the team right now. How about this? We talked about on our show on Sunday morning, we talked about what USC looked like against Oregon and how it just looked like a Lincoln Riley team. Just not totally unable to meet the moment, not physical at the point of attack. And one thing that I forgot to mention while we were talking about that game on Sunday, Oregon was extremely injured, like on their offensive line and at receiver and everything. And Lincoln Riley's defense still got mauled and just could not get off the field when they absolutely needed to. So here's what I'm thankful for. I am thankful that Lincoln Riley is no longer the head coach at Oklahoma. It's taken time. It's very
like 4 years.
I know, but like last year at times it's like, oh, we don't know. It's like, gosh, this is a historically terrible offense. I sure would prefer to, you ask me to trade, I'll trade any day with the best offense in college football with a terrible defense. Like I'd much rather watch that product than what we saw a season ago. But that game against Oregon this past weekend, it completely solidified it in my head. Lincoln Riley is never going to win really any games of consequence at this level. It's just not going to happen. He doesn't have he just does not have the makeup of a guy who can do it. And one of the things that I want to give like a hat tip, I think it was Josh McQuistion over at Sooner Scoop who said this. And this was a while back ago. This was kind of pretty shortly after Riley took the job at USC. He said that one of Riley's biggest demerits, one of his biggest weaknesses, not just as a coach, but maybe even as a human being also, is that he is the smartest guy in the room. Like, actually, he probably does have the highest IQ in the room whenever he walks in it. But his biggest weakness is that leads him to assume that there's no one else in the room who is smart. And I think there actually is a lot to that, where there is just sort of like an ego about him that he has to be the smartest person in the room. And it doesn't ever occur to him that there are other smart people who can see through his crap. And
That's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that the guy will ever be able to field any sort of physical punch you in the mouth defense because he just doesn't have that in his DNA.
He doesn't have it until he does, but he'd have to change his whole makeup, and the thing is, smart people adapt and change, and he kind of adapted. He was forced to with Danton Lynn, but clearly Danton Lynn and his style, it's better, but it's not where it needs to be. And then you throw in, and this is kind of, I mean, everybody saw this, but I know he, his reaction to that question he got in the post game about, which was like whatever, like it's a question, but you know what I'm talking about?
I didn't. I saw somebody describe what he said, but like I didn't want to watch the video. I don't like cringe stuff, and that's a BS question to ask. Like it's okay for him to be upset that question's asked, but also you're the head coach at USC. You need to be diplomatic about it.
Yeah, it was essentially, there was a fan had a sign that said, "Extend Lincoln Riley. How do you feel about other people's fans, essentially not being, like wanting you to be at USC because they're not which, like, yeah, it's kind of a weird question, but also it's like, just be a human and just it's kind of funny. Be like, because like he's answered stuff like that before where he's just like, I remember like the questions at OU. He's like, yeah, I don't know, man. And then he just moves on to the next thing. It's like, it shows that he's so triggered and he knows that he's falling short. And it's such a bad look. And he's a little bit older than I am, and he's under a lot more stress, and he's in control of all these players. And I get it. I don't know what it's like to be that way. And none of us do. At the same time, man, when you're being handsomely paid for what you do, and your job is to be the leader of men and be a professional, and you talk to the media all the time, and even if it's a weird question, it's just bizarre to me to have reactions like that. And it just comes off as he's kind of immature, and he knows that he's failing. And it's like, man, be proud of what you've done. I know that he's not lived up to expectations at USC. I still think Lincoln Riley is a really good football coach. He's just not as good as people want him to be, and he's not a good all-around head coach. He's a great offensive coordinator. And like time has gone by, and I'm glad he's not at OU either. And I don't dislike him as much as I did before. And time heals everything. And a part of me kind of wants to see him succeed in some ways, but he's never going to succeed until he actually evolves and realizes that there's some things about the game that he doesn't know, and he needs help. And so when he doesn't adapt, it makes him more and more unlikable. And that's that. I as you guys are probably can tell throughout the season, I've been kind of coming around. Like, I've been wanting to like USC, been wanting to like Lincoln Riley, kind of because they're kind of underdog. They're kind of the underdogs in the Big Ten. But then crap like that just makes me kind of go back to like, okay, you're just not a very likable dude a lot of the time, man.
So a couple things there. Like you coming around on USC or whatever. They're not a threat. They're not a threat at all. So like it's just kind of how I always felt about Oklahoma State, where it's like I don't feel super strongly about them either way because they're not a threat to Oklahoma. And then the second point, just on, and we can move on to what you're thankful for after this. But football's a super violent game. It doesn't take a Mensa level genius to understand that in order to win at a high level in football, you have to breed a level of violence in your program. And that's just something he has never, ever been willing to do. Period.
And that's the thing about football that a lot of people love. That part about football is not my favorite part of the game.
Me
It's
either.
just not. I like the tactical part, like the X's and O's part, I like the team part. But a huge part of football is contact and tackling and violence, and that's a part of the game. And it's a really important part of the game, to your point. So it's like if I was a coach, you'd have to make sure that you implement a lot of that within your system, even if you're not the biggest fan of it. Like that's not why I watch the game. But a lot of people love that part of football. It's like the only part of football they love. And that's fine. That's totally fine. That's just not but yeah, it's just that you got to be able to do it all. All right, my next thing that I'm thankful for, sticking with players. How about this? And I don't have a whole lot of details on this. It's just more of just like an acknowledgement. You know what? I'm thankful for Michael Fasusi. I'm glad Michael Fasusi is on OU as a true freshman and has essentially started for, I don't know, 70% of the season, it seems like, maybe even more than that. And for the most part, he's been good. He's been a good, nice player. He's been a steady player at that left tackle position as a true freshman, and that all of the hype that he got, whether it would be inside the locker room or outside, for the most part, dude's lived up to it. And I am thankful that guy's on the team, and he's for a lot of ways kind of anchoring the offensive line. Like he's not, I mean, I'm sure he's not like an elite player by any means now, but he's a good player in the SEC as a true freshman, playing one of the most difficult positions on the field, if not the most important position on the offensive line. So I'm thankful for Michael Fasusi.
I like that. I will stick in the trenches, but I'll go to the other side of the ball. How about this? I am thankful that in the offseason in the spring, when David Stone got into the transfer portal, that OU staff and their administration played the game and paid him, because he has been worth every single penny. There are some people who think that he has been the best interior defensive lineman in the SEC this year. At times he looks like it, for sure. And so I'm glad you can go back and listen to the show after this. Like I was annoyed about that whole saga, but the thing that I said at the end of it was, I'm annoyed, but pay him. These are the guys that you got to pay. And I'm glad that they did, because injury notwithstanding in the future, I think he is a future first round pick at interior defensive line for Oklahoma. He has been great this year.
Whatever it was, whether it's money, whether it was all this, go back to listen to our old shows and other podcasts that have more inside sources than we do. We're talking about it, whether it was family stuff with him, that was whatever it was. It clearly, whatever happened got figured out. And I remember one of my theories, because we all kind of heard the rumors that, or that wasn't even rumors. I think Gabe Eichert had mentioned on their show that he was essentially being tasked with being like the man of the family and stuff, and like having to provide. And we talked about this at length on our show, and it's, as a teenager, and it's just the amount of responsibility. It's totally unfair and ridiculous, and how much of that was mentally messing with him his freshman year, because he didn't really do anything last year. He played a lot of games. He didn't really have much impact, and so that's why I was like, well, fine, he leaves. He didn't really do anything. He's not any good. Okay, well, he's lived up to the potential this year.
True freshmen, I think, very, very rarely make an impact on the interior defensive line. They just don't. Like, that was silly.
Except for the guy on his team that was making a ton of impact that he went to high school with, whatever. And Brent Venables' defense. So yeah, but whatever happened, you would it's probably reasonable to expect that whatever was ailing him a season ago is not there anymore, and he's been great, and he's having fun, and it's great. And I will transition into my next thanks, and it's not an individual player, but it's a coach, and I'm thankful for Todd Bates being on Oklahoma staff, because how much did Todd Bates have to do with convincing David Stone to not leave OU? Probably a lot. And Todd Bates and his position group has been awesome, has been so good. And all the years that we were just begging and praying and hoping that Oklahoma could get one really good interior defensive lineman, one defensive tackle type player that was good. And now, man, Oklahoma under Todd Bates is they have depth. They have several. They have 4, 5, and it's all because of Todd Bates and Brent Venables. I mean, bringing over Todd Bates, but Todd Bates, I'm very thankful that dude is on OU staff, because he has been an excellent position coach.
Absolutely. I do think I mean they got the best defensive line in college football. And if they retain the guys who who aren't automatically like obviously going to go to the draft, and that's Halton, Williams, and R. Mason Thomas, everybody else can come back. They retain all of those guys, they're going to have the best defensive line in college football again. So Todd Bates has done an excellent job. Miguel Chavis has also done an excellent job at Oklahoma as well. Those have, through the first 4 years, I think those have been consistently like the best position groups on the team consistently. So
that's another guy. PJ Adebourwe I think he had a sack that in the fourth quarter that I missed.
He's coming into his own.
It's taken a while, but hey, no better time than now to be
Danny Okoye has flashed this year. Taylor Wine is awesome. I mean, they got a lot of good players in that room. It's great. So,
and Chavis had never been a position coach until OU, and he's so good for him. He's got you would anticipate a bright future.
He's in I think that's something that we should have seen right away. I guess I feel like I was like on an island of one in that first year where everyone was just like, where I was just like, I was the biggest like Ethan Downs defender ever. I was like, this guy's a good player. Like they've gotten a lot out of him. And I mean, I think you can draw a line to Miguel Chavis for sure, because just like he's gotten a lot of really good production out of that room, even with guys who are not like high end talent guys. So I'm gonna go to the other side of the ball, and I will say this: I am very thankful that Isaiah Satania is on this team, because he's a really good player, and you and I were never big Deion Burks guys once we actually saw him play real live tackle football games. And so pending what we were going to see out of Giovanni Gibson, I don't know. In the spring, I came on this podcast and I said, Isaiah Satania is pretty clearly the best receiver on this team. And he has proven that game in and game out this year. Very obviously the best receiver on the team. Actually, I will even go one step further than that. He is obviously the best player on the offense. And I don't even think it's really close at this point in time.
Yeah, that was also one of my thankful things. Yeah, he has been, and I know other people have talked about it as well, and he was kind of the player that nobody like was thinking that he was going to be a non-factor. Everyone kind of thought, yeah, because like all the reports from spring and fall camp was that he was working really well with Mateer, and his background at Arkansas. It was like, yeah, sounds like he's going to be a pretty good player. Like he's going to contribute quite a bit. Turns out he's their best receiver. He's their best player. Could be Jaren Kanak if they utilized him more, but it's just Ben Arbuckle's offense. We go back, they don't utilize a tight end much, and I mean that's just his thing. And but with Satania, man, remember after the first like 3 or 4 games, another podcast bold prediction show thing where they were going to have OU was going to have not one but 2 1,000-yard receivers. Actually didn't look so crazy. Now, obviously it does. But the fact that they might get one in this offense is actually pretty crazy. I mean, if you count the bowl game, actually, I mean, Satania definitely should get there. Now, regular season wise, he's gonna have a massive game against LSU. He's at 827 right now total yards. But
That's a good season. That's all right. That's a good
it's
season.
a great season.
It's that's it's pretty hard to go over 1,000 yards in college football. And of course, there's always a good handful of guys who do it every year. I'm talking nationally, but it doesn't happen very often. So I think that's something really cool. What else you got?
Next thing I am thankful for. This is going to be a really surprising one, I think, for everybody out there. Nobody else is going to have this one on their list, Grant. I guarantee you that. Just kidding. I'm very thankful that Tate Sandell kicks for Oklahoma. That guy is just awesome. And I hesitate like praising him so much because he's going to miss something at some point, and
it's going to hurt.
It's going to
really
hurt
bad when it happens.
And we're not allowed to get mad about it because he's been so amazing and he's won Oklahoma at least 2 games this year. But it's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, great. It's going to. He's a college kicker. It's just, we hope it doesn't happen in a really crucial moment. But that dude has ice in his veins, ice water is whatever the saying is. And dude's awesome. So I am very thankful that guy, Tate Sandell, kicks for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that 45-yarder on Saturday against Missouri, I was in the sports book and I was like, he's going to miss this one. Like it's over. And then, I mean, he just freaking drilled it. I mean, not even just casually drilled it like nothing. Like it's, he's a pro. He's a pro. And that's going to be a guy who, not really sure about his eligibility type, but he is, I mean, he might get drafted. He's been that good this year. And a lot of kickers don't really get drafted. So that's, but yeah, he's a pro. He's going to be kicking in the NFL for a long time. And I think he is, not, pending some sort of like disaster kicking performance on Saturday. I think he's going to be unanimous All-American, and he's very likely going to be OU's first Lou Groza Award winner, which, whatever, like, a kicker winning an award, whatever, but OU's never won that award. And I think that's kind of cool. I'd like it if an OU guy got into the record books there. So good one there.
I think he'll be back next year.
Is he able to?
Oklahoma will make. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like this is his 4th year of college football, but his freshman year he only played in 4 games. So.
Okay, so he can. I wonder, like, that'd be one thing where it's just like, gosh, I wonder what he would get paid. Like, what's the going rate for the best kicker in college football?
Well, ask Alabama. They went ahead and paid up for that Miami of Ohio kicker last year, whatever that number was. My guess is that he'd make. Let me know if you think this is absolutely crazy, without knowing any of the inside. Whatever. My guess is that they'll pay him $250,000 next year to come back. Sure.
None of that stuff interests you, but unfortunately that's where the sport is these days.
Well, it doesn't interest me because nothing's like official and out there. Like with the pro sports, you actually have contracts and you get salaries and you actually see numbers and stuff. I don't like this because everything is all conjecture, and it behooves agents and it behooves people to say things that probably aren't true. So
true. That's fair. That's fair.
But then again, when we have this whole new revenue share thing, maybe we'll get a little more transparency come in. Who knows?
Potentially. All right, this is going to be my last one. We need to move on here. It's been a nice, tight show. I'm going to keep it that way. I just saw, and I've been looking, all throughout November, I just saw what the television ratings were for their game against Missouri on Saturday. It was just barely missed out on the most watched game last Saturday. 5.4 million people watched OU Missouri. 5.6 million people watched Arkansas and Texas. The biggest game of the week, USC and Oregon on CBS, drew I think like 5 million or something like that. So here's what I'm thankful for, and I have not always been this type. But OU's won some games here in the SEC. And man, the country has watched Oklahoma this year. There's a lot That's a lot of recruits, a lot of high school kids watching college football, and OU has had massive ratings this year whenever they've played. And so in that sense, I think that only could have happened if they're playing in the SEC. So as of right now, as of this recording, I am thankful that Oklahoma's in the SEC. That's where the sport was going, and of any of the conferences that they had to be in, it's all about eyeballs. It's all about people talking about you. And being in the SEC is going to maximize both of those things. And for as much of competitively as I'd prefer to be in the Big Ten, just nowhere near as many people are going to be watching your games if you're in the Big Ten, period.
All right, I'll go rapid fire because I do have like a handful more, but I won't. I'll just go boom, boom, boom. So next up, this easy one, Kip Lewis. I'm thankful for Kip Lewis. That dude's really good. He has jumped off the screen a lot more to me of late, and he's leading the team in tackles. So Kip Lewis, one of my likes. Well, what I'm thankful for. Another version, I said Todd Bates earlier. This is going to be one that I would not have said maybe a month ago, but right now I'm going to say I'm thankful for Jay Valai being on staff because the cornerback room is improving. And you touched on this last episode, and I agree with you. So, I'm thankful that Jay Valai has really helped improve that cornerback room. The last couple of things, these are not really OU related, but kind of. I'm thankful that YouTube TV exists and got their stuff figured out because it's a superior product to everything else on the market. And it makes consuming college football and the NFL, if you have the Sunday ticket, just better than it ever has been in the history of sports. So thankful for YouTube TV. And finally, I am thankful that the playoff was expanded to 12 teams and may get expanded to more down the road, because if not, who gives a crap about this upcoming game between OU and LSU? Oh, they might make the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. I don't care. Oklahoma's trying to make the playoff. And that wouldn't be the case if they only had the 4 teams left and it was a really tiny and not even really a playoff. So I am thankful that we are in year 2 of an expanded playoff up to 12 teams. And I'm not the only one, because there's a lot of other teams out there that would not be in this position if not for the expansion.
And hey, it was when we started this podcast all the way back in August of 2017. One of the first things that we talked about that we kind of kept was that, like, well, this is great, but we really would prefer there to be like a 24 team playoff like the FCS. I don't support that anymore. I would still very much support it if we were still in the traditional conferences. But now that there's just 2 conferences, I don't think it makes sense to go to 24. But there are people from the Big Ten who are trying to pitch 24 team playoffs, Lee. So you may have been a trailblazer there. It could happen, and all of the arguments that we made then, it's just like, all it's going to do is just make everyone way richer. It's like, and this is a sport about money anyway. And like, very much that, yes, there will be a lot more money to go around. If they were to go to 24, they should stay at 12 right now with just let it breathe for a little bit. Let's see what this is like. And let's try to figure out like other issues in college football right now, like how garbage the scheduling is and how bad the calendar is for college football. Let's figure that out before we go to 24 teams.
I mean, the scheduling is not going to, there's too many teams to where that's just not, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, every year, and you can't even really.
I can tell you a really easy way to fix it right now. Go back to divisions. Pretty easy.
I don't have time to get into that right now. There's probably a lot to unpack there.
We don't. All right, Lee, what do you want to see happen against LSU? I'm just kidding. That's silly. How about this? It's a win and you're in a game. I would. I know. How about this? I would like to see Oklahoma win the football game. We know what this is. We know what this team is. This is not a good offensive team. It's a great defensive team. They can really only win in that sort of way. I'm not expecting them to magically have 500 yards of offense against LSU and score 40 points, although that would be freaking awesome. That's not going to happen. We know what the formula is for Oklahoma to win. I hope they execute that formula. I think I have a good feeling about this game. I think Oklahoma is going to win this game. That is not me being like ultra confident and like, gosh, LSU doesn't have a chance. I think this is a winnable game for LSU, but there's a reason why Oklahoma is a double-digit favorite, and I do think that's probably appropriate.
Looking ahead just one more time at the forecast because that's going to factor in. So right now, the high on Saturday is 55 with occasional rain showers and the wind 15 to 25. So you know what? Every few hours I look at this forecast and it gets a little bit better. It's a little bit better. So hopefully by tomorrow, maybe we're at like a high of 57 with maybe like 40% chance of rain and winds at like, I don't know, 10 to 15 or 15 to 20. Anyways, I was going to say I really would like to see John Mateer start to just see it better and hit open guys and stuff. And the more I watched the fourth quarter, and I know, and it's at some point it's on both him and Ben Arbuckle, because Ben Arbuckle's the guy that's teaching him, and like they need to be watching film. And some of the stuff is not that hard. I mean, there was a time, and because again, I didn't get to rewatch the fourth quarter on our last podcast. I did watch the fourth quarter. There was a play where one of the few times Missouri was allowing free yards, and it was like a second down play where it was you'll remember this. Mateer tried to fit the ball into a super tiny window to Deion Burks, where he threw a little bit behind him, and there was no chance for it to be a completed pass. Whereas if Deion Burks would have just done his old thing where he just runs out 4 or 5 yards, turns around, stops, the closest guy to him was 12 yards. It was second and 10. Might have gotten the first down, and they're just not doing that as much anymore. And so like I don't know if there's not a thing to trigger that pre-snap, or they're not, Mateer's just not seeing it, or so. But yeah, everything you said. Win the football game. I think the total of this game is just insane. Again, 36.5 is wild. Laying 10.5, 10 points, but like I don't know. But I don't know what the score is going to be. I don't know who I would take, if I would take the points or lay them. But I did say before that if OU beat Missouri, I think they're going to beat LSU. So I'll stick with that. I don't know what the score is going to be, but OU should win this football game.
Indeed. All right, let's move on. So last Saturday, I coined Assy Saturday. This Saturday, not the same. This is pretty loaded. Well, Saturday, it's also Friday and Saturday. We got a loaded week. I believe this is rivalry week. This is what they call rivalry week. So let's see here. A lot of these games in the SEC we're going to be picking, and by a lot of them, I mean 3 of them. An SEC game that we are not going to be picking, Lee, Georgia and Georgia Tech. See here, Georgia is only a 12.5-point favorite. Now, that was originally supposed to be at Georgia Tech. I have since found out that game is being played in Atlanta at where the Falcons play, which means that is going to be a Georgia Bulldogs home game. So I don't know. I Georgia minus 12.5, I would, if I was in a legal betting state, I would try to get that as at the highest alternate line I possibly can.
Well, I mean, let's be fair here. If the game was at Georgia Tech's camp, but Georgia Tech is in Atlanta as well. So if Georgia fans were going to go to the Falcon Stadium, they would also go to Georgia Tech Stadium. I mean,
well,
maybe maybe they would.
I think there are more seats in the Falcon Stadium, and
okay.
Georgia
is a Georgia Tech home game, though, right? They have to be giving up a home game for this, unless they decided to do this in neutral.
My guess is that how that would work. I bet Georgia Tech is probably getting like all of the money, all of the gate money would be my guess. But that's a big stadium. There's going to be plenty of tickets that a bunch of dogs can bark up. So
yeah, this game is. I think you have it on the rundown. What do you have it at? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. What's the number?
12.5.
It's 13.5 now, and no, you don't alternate. You load up on 13.5. You don't want to go any higher than that. Georgia should beat the dog out of Georgia Tech. But you can't push it. You got to win money. You got to try to win money here. And 13.5, that's a good number. Georgia Tech, that was their season last week, and they blew it. Like they're going to get their butts kicked by Georgia.
Yeah, and it's like, how does that happen? It's because Georgia Tech's mediocre. They're not a good team. Let's see here. Clemson and South Carolina. That game is at South Carolina. South Carolina's a 2.5-point favorite. That's an unwatchable game. Um, a game that we will not be picking, but is a top 25 matchup. Vanderbilt visits Neyland Stadium. Tennessee's a 2.5-point favorite over Diego Pavia's Doors. I think I tend to lean towards Tennessee in this game. Vanderbilt's defense is not great, and Josh Heupel's and the old Art Briles Bear Raid system is designed to absolutely run defenses that aren't very good. So I kind of see Tennessee being able to throw for nearly 400 yards in this game, and I'm not saying it's going to be like a blowout or anything like that because Vanderbilt can score, and Tennessee's defense is not great, although they have been playing better as of late. But that's a game that I think would be a little bit better for OU if Tennessee won that game, just to sweeten that resume just a little bit.
That number's up to 3.5 now. Vanderbilt plus 3.5. Give me Vandy. I might even give. I would take. I think Vanderbilt's offense is really good. I think they're going to be able to move the ball, score points. Tennessee getting like that big win at Florida, first time they've won in the Swamp. What we talked about it last show or 2 shows ago? Like first time they've won in the Swamp in like 20 years or whatever the number is. So, and Vanderbilt's been pretty. I mean, they played Texas close on the road, and that Alabama game, the final score was not indicative of the way that game went when they played at Alabama. So I think they can. It's only 3.5, so it's not that big of a number. But give me the hook. I'll take Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt's their college football playoff lives are still theoretically intact. I think they would need the trifecta. I think they would need OU, Alabama, and Miami to lose this weekend. Which, one of those teams losing, I think might even be a greater than 50% odds. All three of them losing seems to be a pretty long odd, but that could have a little bit more motivation for Vanderbilt. But also, these are two Tennessee schools, and you would think maybe with both those teams being good this year, that adds a little bit more juice to that game. National slate, the 2 game, or I have 4 games here in the national slate. We're going to be picking 2 of them. One game that we're not going to be picking, I want to get your thoughts on. Miami is a 6.5-point favorite. They are visiting Pittsburgh. I don't know. I guess I need to look to see if they're still a 6.5-point favorite. I'm not exactly sure. They are?
Yeah.
Not really sure what to think about that game. I think Pitt is they're 8-3. I think their ACC title lives are still very much intact. I don't think Pitt is a good team at all. But also this game absolutely screams a game in which Mario Cristobal pisses down his leg, and they lose a game that they absolutely should win. This is a game that, and I'll be driving through Iowa and Kansas, so I can bet this is a game that I am not going to remotely touch. I have no feeling for this game whatsoever, but kind of an interesting matchup.
I believe Pitt is in the ACC championship game if they win. If they win this game.
I believe that is correct.
Let me just double check real quick. Pittsburgh will make the ACC title game if beat Miami and there's an and. Okay. They need help. And Virginia or SMU lose. So Virginia and SMU both control their own destiny. That's wild. For Virginia, a Virginia win and an SMU win puts Virginia and SMU, I believe, in the title game. Yeah. Wow.
Can't wait to watch that first round playoff game between, I don't know, probably like Oregon and whoever wins the ACC title. That's going to be like a 27.5-point spread. Anyway, the only other national game I threw on there is the battle for the Axe, Minnesota and Wisconsin, and I only put that on there just because this is a soft Minnesota podcast as well. I don't have any thoughts on that game other than Wisconsin is suddenly super hot, and the Minnesota Golden Gophers are a 3-9 team masquerading as a 6-win bowl eligible team. So, yeah, I think that's a game that Wisconsin should feel pretty good about. Either way, it is going to be virtually unwatchable.
Okay. By the way, I will say that in contests and stuff, pick contests, I'd be on Pitt, and but I'd like to wait, like actually like wait closer to kickoff to see if it goes to 7. Pitt, given Pitt all this crap, they ended up beating Georgia Tech, and they can potentially now go 9-3. Remember, they're the big part about big Mario Cristobal, everything. Yeah. Okay, Miami's playing for the playoff; they want to make it. This is a big deal though when it comes to the ACC and this time of year, man. You got Miami going up north to Pittsburgh. It's gonna be cold, man. It's gonna be in the 30s. So
Maybe.
take that into account.
Although I was listening
Cold
to the
weather,
solid,
man.
I was listening to the Solid Verbal podcast today, and they also somebody made the point on that podcast that half of Pitt's roster is from the state of Florida, also. So, like,
Yeah, but they've been practicing and stuff and getting ready for it in that weather. While
I
Miami will
suppose.
be in sunny Miami. That's where they play, right? Miami, Florida.
Yes, that is where Miami is situated in the contiguous United States. All right, Lee, we're going to move on to our picks of the week segment. I had a winning week last week. You did not. I did triple check these. So you're shaking your head. Did I get this wrong again?
Mine's correct. I don't know about yours.
Yeah, no, mine was right. Okay, you went 2-3 last week. I went 3-2. You need to have a winning week this week to at least pull to 500 for the regular season. I cannot get to 500 for the regular season. I'm going to have to hope that I make up all of that lost time during bowl season like I usually do. So, to the Week 14 picks. This is going to be on Black Friday, 11 a.m. kick on ABC. It's the Egg Bowl. Ole Miss is a 6.5-point favorite as of writing this. I guess I'm not. Can you check accurate? It's different now?
Yeah, it's changed. If I told you it's changed, what would you guess it's changed to?
I would guess that it's gone up to 7.5.
You would be correct.
Ole Miss is a 7.5-point favorite in Starkville. Clenga against Mississippi State. Jeff Lebby's squad still needs a win to become bowl eligible. And you know what, Lee? I'm not necessarily going to say Mississippi State is going to win this game, but because that has gone up to 7.5, it makes me much more comfortable taking Mississippi State to cover that 7.5-point spread. Ole Miss has been a little sketchy at times this year, and Mississippi State, I think, is pretty desperate for that win. I think that they're going to keep it close.
Yeah, that's what they want you to do. It's a rivalry game. They want you to take that number. I'm gonna lay it with the road team. It's enticing to take Jeff Lebby. I've been burned by Mississippi State. Really, for the most part, with the exception of like early in the season, I think I was on them and they were successful. But the last couple of times I've bet on Jeff Lebby's squad. They've looked terrible. So give me Lane's group there in Starkville.
All right. Also on Friday night, Texas A&M is a 2.5-point favorite in Austin playing the Texas Longhorns. It's kind of an interesting game. This is a game where a lot of the analytics favor Texas in this game over Texas A&M. A&M has been has benefited probably from the easiest SEC schedule in the conference this season, but I also think Texas A&M has been a pretty good team. Texas's defense has kind of fallen off of a cliff in the second half of the year, basically ever since they left Dallas. Texas's defense has not particularly played very well the rest of the season. I think a lot of people are going to be on the horns in this to spring the upset. I will not do that. I think Texas A&M is going to complete the dream regular season at 12-0. I think they're going to beat Texas in Austin.
I agree. Take A&M. Texas is back to their rightful spot of being a regular 8-4 Texas team. So they do. And for the record, their defense really hasn't even been all that amazing to begin with. It's been kind of smoke and mirrors.
Okay. Sounds good. Whatever you say.
Yeah,
Lee, 11 a.m. on Saturday. I believe they call this game the game. Is Ohio State and Michigan. Is it still a 9.5-point spread, Ohio State over Michigan?
It is, yes.
Well, that makes it pretty easy for me to take the Buckeyes. I will take Ohio State to beat Michigan by close to 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, the easy handicap for this one is that this is pretty much what everyone expected last year. and then the ridiculousness happened. That can't
Like I
happen
said,
again. I mean,
Michigan's a lot better this year than they were last year.
oh, well then, yeah, I agree. That's why it's. I mean, I think it was a. I mean, it wasn't Ohio State favored by like three touchdowns or
It was
something.
like 20.5 last year.
20, yeah, and they lose outright. But yeah, I mean, of course, Michigan gets them at home too. Until Ohio State figures this out, I'll take Michigan. Give me the points. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, they should have boat raced Michigan last year and they didn't somehow. I don't really understand how they didn't.
The only way to describe it is that they have a Michigan problem. But also, I think like when you're handicapping games, it's tough to be like, yeah, they have like a mental block on Michigan.
Well, for sure, yeah.
That's like tough for me to do. I can only go by how those teams have looked, and both of these teams have played relatively light Big Ten slates up to this point, and Ohio State has been utterly dominant in theirs, whereas Michigan has kind of escaped by the skin of their teeth far too many times. Like, I'm sure Michigan will be plucky at times in this game, but Ohio State is just kind of on a different level right now. So, also in the Big Ten, 2:30 on CBS. Dan Lanning's Oregon squad is a 6.5-point favorite. At least they were yesterday afternoon over Jed Fish's Washington team. You're giving me the thumbs up. That means that is still a current line. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Oregon in this one. Getting that hook there kind of makes me feel a lot better. I think Oregon's really, really good. I think going into the playoff, as of right now, I think they're one of three teams that has like a genuinely realistic chance to win the national championship. Ohio State and Indiana being the others. Give me Oregon to cover.
What you saying that Dan Lanning might have a Washington problem?
He might.
Where did that come from?
What do you mean? Where did it come from?
Because Oregon whooped up on Washington last season.
Oh, I guess I didn't realize they played last year. I'm more going back to 2 seasons ago, the Penix year at Washington, where it was Bo Nix's last year at Oregon. Oregon was terrific that season. They were really good.
Oh, and they beat Oregon twice. Yeah,
they beat Oregon twice. Yeah,
I gotcha. Yeah, this is. I think Dan Lanning's a killer. I think he's going to get his team ready. That being said, I obviously prefer 7. It's not 7. There's a reason why it's not 7 because they want you to think about it. But I'll take Washington plus the 6.5.
Do you think it would be? Oregon losing that game, would be sort of like your classic last week of the regular season surprise. I think that would send a lot of stuff into chaos for sure. So, I even got this wrong here. Oregon is now number. Well, I guess when I was doing this yesterday, I only had the AP poll. I didn't have the playoff rankings, but Oregon's number 6 now. That doesn't matter. All right, ABC. Primetime Saturday night. It is the Iron Bowl. Is this still 6.5 Alabama, Lee?
Yep.
It is. All right. And you know what? Auburn is really bad. I'm going to take Alabama minus 6.5.
My handicap is that Auburn's really bad. I'll take them. Yeah, Auburn is Auburn's not a good football team. Is Deuce Knight?
Yes, he is. But also,
is he their quarterback?
Auburn's defense is still pretty good. And as I mentioned numerous times 2 weeks ago in the Alabama preview, Alabama's offense is good, but the way that people talk about it, it is obscenely overrated. So I think there's a path for Auburn to win the game.
Man. Yeah, give me Auburn.
Did I just talk you in? I just talked you into that?
No, I was trying to decide if I really wanted to take the side of Deuce Knight. And because I don't, yeah, like I think Alabama's offense is really good and Auburn's defense is really good. It's more of just can Auburn do anything against Alabama's defense with a guy that is clearly not that good because he would have been playing a lot sooner if he was any good. Apparently he can run, but they played Mercer. Mercer's terrible. So I hate that game. Alabama's going to win the game by like 4 touchdowns, but I already said Auburn.
So that's why you're going to take Auburn. Okay, makes a lot of sense. To recap, Ole Miss is a 7.5-point favorite in the Egg Bowl on Friday morning. Lee is on the road dog, or not, the road favorites, Ole Miss. I am going to be with Clangah, Mississippi State. We're both on Texas A&M -2.5 at Texas on Friday night. Another crossfire in the game. Lee will be on Michigan +9.5. I'm on Ohio State -9.5. Another crossfire in Oregon, Washington. Lee is going to take the underdog Huskies at +6.5. I'm on Oregon. And then in the Iron Bowl, another crossfire. Lee is going to back the 6.5-point dog Auburn Tigers. I will be on the Crimson Tide. Well, Lee, I guess.
Oh, you know what? Real quick, this for all the Auburn fans and people that know about college football, like myself. Apparently, there was a thing. Deuce Knight played last week because Ashton Daniels sat out to preserve his red shirt. So Ashton Daniels is going to be playing quarterback against Alabama for Auburn. Okay, I feel a lot better about my Auburn pick now then.
Ashton Daniels also sucks. So, I don't think if Auburn wins that game, it's going to be because their defense wins the game for them. It's going to be, there's going to be a lot of weird stuff that happens. So, all right, well, I guess I'll see you in a bit because I'm driving there tomorrow.
All right, we'll drive safe. And everybody out there, thank you for listening to West of Everest. Thank you for watching West of Everest. If you listen to this long into the show and you have not yet given us a like on YouTube or left us a nice review on Apple Podcasts, or you leave us a rating on Spotify, that'd be awesome if you did that. If not, we'll live. It's cool. But sincerely, thank you for the support. And a big reason why we do this, if not the only one, is because we know that a good amount of you out there are still, for some reason, consuming our content all these years later. Any final thoughts?
See you next week, knuckleheads.
All right. Until next time, for Grant, I am Lee. This is West of Everest. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to the show. And if you want to help us spread the word, please leave us a 5-star review. And also, tell all of your friends who are OU fans about West of Everest. You can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud.